Hello there, YouTube. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today, we're going to be looking at a movie, or two movies, that are kind of the same movie, although much different. And I hope that you find this interesting, maybe discover something you didn't know, and take a look at two really great historic movies that you would enjoy. Turn down John Williams here a little bit. We'll let him stay in the background because this endearing score. All right, so what do we got here? Two movies twice. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982, and The Great Escape, 1963, 19 years earlier. I don't know if people have seen both of the movies or ever thought about this, but we're going to look at the idea that they really are the same movie, even though there's a lot different. What's different? Let me put on my glasses. All right, The Great Escape was a John Sturges film in 1963. Starred Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charlie Bronson, James Coburn, Donald Pleasance, and featured music by Elmer Bernstein. It was one of the original adventure action movies, of probably the first one ever. And well, it's the other one here. We'll go into this. E.T. the Extraterrestrial was by Steven Spielberg, and it was a kind of a kids movie originally. Came out in 1982 and was a huge box office surprise. Very popular movie and very influential movie in a whole different ballgame. The Great Escape basically was a movie that highlighted a American pilot prisoner of war who had been a guest of the Luftwaffe at Luftstalag 3, and while it's a dramatization, it is also a historical film. It's about events that happened in real life. There was no Captain Hiltz, and he didn't ride a Triumph decorated as being in a Wehrmacht motorcycle. But basically, in The Great Escape, is known because the star kind of flew his airplane over a barbed wire fence. And in E.T., it's young boys on bicycles flying to the forest with their friend, the space alien. So are those the same things? Well, I don't know. Let's see. It's not really noted for the stars in E.T. The biggest star, I think, was Drew Barrymore, and she was 6 at the time she made the movie. She played Gertie, but still, The Great Escape was a screenplay was written by James Clavell, who took the original short story from Reader's Digest or whatever and turned it into a 2-hour and 52-minute movie, all about how these Allied prisoner of wars worked their escape plans to get out of the Luftstalag 3 and return back to the war instead of sitting it out in the Luftstalag like the Germans wanted to do. E.T. is about an alien who comes to Earth and kind of gets marooned, and then little by little people from the government find out that he's there and they track him down and catch him, and then the kids who he had befriended take him and escape so he can catch the next flight out to far off outer space. And it's a very exciting movie and very, very well done. But it's kind of the same story, just instead one is taken in a prisoner of war camp in Germany, the other in the hills in California, outside of Los Angeles somewhere. And so there's a lot of similarities to it, although obviously they didn't, when Spielberg made E.T., he counted on special effects, and in The Great Escape, they counted on having a very big, powerful cast that carried the movie on there. Interestingly enough, there's also progress in the technologies of movie making. The Great Escape was considered really an amazing movie when it was made, that they could do things like that. And I remember being a little kid in the car in the drive-in movie when my parents took me to see Great Escape. And when Steve McQueen flew that Triumph over the barbed wire fence, my mouth dropped wide open. And, I never could imagine anybody doing something like that. And it was staged and set up, but and it wasn't Steve, of course, that really did it. It was Bud Eakins, his friend, who dressed up as Steve and jumped the Triumph over the barbed wire fence. And that was just an amazing sight in the days in 1963 when you first saw that in a movie. Is that even possible? I remember saying, "Dad, motorcycles can fly?" And he says, "Well, they can in movies." But in E.T., they got the whole gang of kids on bicycles and they all fly. But of course, it's through the magic of electric light and magic, ELM, that does the special effects of having the kids fly off and leave the FBI standing there going, "Oh." But it's a great movie. What I wanted to talk about was the thing that really makes them together. And this was something explained by John Williams when he was he did a special feature where he was talking about how he and Spielberg worked on the movie, the music, the score, which won him the Academy Award for 1982. But what was really going on there was they did something different they'd never done before. Like in the Great Escape, the big highlight of the movie is the escape scene. It's where all the prisoners of war go through the tunnel and they get out of the prisoner of war camp, and then they spread out all over Germany trying to get back to freedom. And they're being tracked down. And it all really did happen. In E.T., it's the same story. The highlight of the film is when the kids get E.T., put him in the bicycle, great big basket on the front of Elliot's bicycle, and the kids escape all the federal officers that are trying to catch them, and they fly off and set E.T. They bring E.T. back to the forest where he can catch the spaceship out. So, but in both movies, there's an extended scene of all the escape. And that's the real highlight in both movies. And what makes the whole movies happen is that you have to get to that point. And it's really incredible when it happens. And you just love both movies for it, but it's the same thing. You have an extended multi-minute scene which has no dialogue. There's no talking. And it's a movie, you know. You got actors, they want to act, they want to have their lines. There's no lines. In E.T. there's one line, and that's where one kid on the bicycle says, "Why don't we split up?" And that's it. That's not really a highlight of the movie, but that's the whole idea behind it. And So what happened was John was in the studio, and he was had the whole orchestra in there in the big sound stage, and they have a movie screen in the back of the place, and John Williams is up in front conducting, and he's watching the video of what's going on, and he's trying to keep the orchestra together with the action that's going on in the movie while he's watching it. And he's trying and he's trying, and he speeds up and he slows down and he speeds up, and they've been going over it and over it and over again. And John says, Stephen suddenly shows up, and he sits there and he watches them play and he listens to it and he sees what's going on, and he says, Steven Spielberg never goes to the soundstage when you're doing recording sessions. He just doesn't do that. He's got all these other things that he's doing. But Stephen comes up to John after a few minutes and says, let me ask you something. He says, I'm paraphrasing here, I haven't seen this in a while, but pretty much these same words. He says, this great big long scene you have written this wonderful music to, and everything has to be just right because there's no dialogue here. This is the highlight of the movie, and the music tells the story. And he says, yeah, I got it. I got it, Stephen. I know, we got to get this music timed just right. And he says, it looks like we're having some problems here. I said, well, we got to speed up, slow down, and get all these things just right. And there's just so much action in here and so much music. He says, yeah, you've got great music here. I just love your score. But I'll tell you what, why don't we do something different? Don't pay any attention to what you see on the screen. We're not even going to show that. Just record the music the way you want it to be. You've written the music, you know how it's supposed to go. You record the music, and I will edit the film to go with your recording. And John Williams is staggered by this. He says, nobody does this. Nobody does this. He'd say, you just get your music to go with my editing. And here you have Steven Spielberg saying, I'll edit my film to go to your music. And so he did that. He just went ahead and he recorded music just exactly how it was supposed to go. And Steven took the recording and he took his films and he edited the film to match John Williams' performance, the way John Williams wanted the music. And they did win the Academy Award for the best score that year. But it was all because Steven Spielberg understood that at that point in his movie, the story was being told not with lines, but with the music. And so he tied the music together with it, and that's the same story. And if you watch the escape scene of Steve jumping over the hill, over the hills and over the fence, you'll hear there's no dialogue. Once again, it's an extended, long visual picture with no talking at all. And everything is told with music. Elmer Bernstein did an excellent job with putting the music together with that. So it kind of puts the two movies together. And because they're really telling the same story and they're using music to tell it. So I recommend, if you haven't seen The Great Escape, it's a long but very wonderfully made movie. And of course, E.T. Maybe you've seen E.T. before. If you haven't, it's old now, but it's kind of timeless in what they do. So both movies I strongly recommend if you want to see something really entertaining, and maybe even watch The Great Escape, and then after you finish it, watch E.T. and see if you can pick out all of the similarities that are going on in the movie. Because if you open your mind and think about it, you'll see some really amazing stuff. All right, well, thank you for visiting the channel. Hope you found this interesting. If you have a comment about it, please leave it and give me a like. I'm still looking for some more subscriptions. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button and you really help out the channel. And until next time, this is Mr. Gibson Guy, and I'm out of here.